my estimation. Mr. Saad El-Amin has arrived. We're grateful for him taking time out of his busy schedule this evening to come and be with us here at Second Baptist Church. Short cum laude. The next voice, let us receive Mr. Saad El-Amin, and we are grateful for him coming out tonight to be with us.
Good evening. Good evening. It is indeed my pleasure to join Pastor Johnny Fleming Jr. and the Second Baptist Church of Chester, Virginia, in celebrating the last day of Black History Month.
All right.
This is the 29th.
Yeah.
Leap year.
Leap year.
Yes, leap year. And I do want to say, as Pastor Fleming said, that, you know, kindred spirits have a way of joining together in times when that joining is really not scheduled, except that God schedules everything.
All right.
And we just attend.
Yeah.
And if we are people of faith, then we obey the dictates that God has planned for us to help each other in this state of life.
Amen.
Because if we do not reach back and lend a hand to others because we have crossed the bridge, we do not want to be in the position of people who cross the bridge and then want to burn it, so that others cannot cross and enjoy what they enjoy. But as we reach the end of this month, there are two questions. What did we learn? And if we learned anything, does it help us move further along the road to achieve freedom, justice, and equality? Because quiet as it's kept, we haven't reached that goal yet.
True.
We haven't reached that goal yet. There have been a lot of amazing things that have happened along that journey, but we haven't got there yet. And the kids are sitting in the back seat asking, are we there yet? And we have to say, no.
That's right.
And when they ask us, well, how long is it going to be before we get there? What is our answer? I don't know. Then they're going to wonder, well, why is he driving if he don't know when we going to get there? Now, Black History Month had its beginnings in 1926 in this country when a famous historian, Carter G. Woodson, and the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History announced that the second week of February would be Negro History Week. They chose this week because it happened to be the week in which marked the birthdays of both Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. Good piece of information.
Yeah.
Dr. Woodson was the son of former slaves and the second person to receive a degree from Harvard University. He understood the value of education. He died in 1950, but his legacy continues on as the celebration of Negro History Week has now expanded to a month.
Yeah.
But my brothers and sisters, as Dr. Fleming said to you earlier, you know, as much as we don't know about ourselves, as much as we don't know about our history, a month is hardly enough for us to know that. And so that every day should be a day where we learn something about our history, because our history is us.
Amen.
And a wise man once said that to know yourself is to be in a position to do for yourself. Because a man or woman who does not know himself or herself is a pretty pitiful human being. Now, it seems that despite the tremendous efforts and contributions of Dr. Woodson, and many others who supported him along the way, emphasizing black history has not been quite the success that we want it to be. And who's responsible for that? We are. Just one statistic will prove that. Do you know that in the period of enslavement and post-enslavement in this country, that it was against the law to teach African American how to read and write? Did you know that? In fact, the punishment was as severe as death. Why? Because the owners of human beings knew that once you know how to read and write, then while it may be able to capture your body, it will never be able to capture your mind. And so they knew. But today, we have, for the last 3 decades, a low level of reading achievement in the inner city schools. So, when it was against the law for us to learn to read and write, we could understand why we didn't know how to read and write. But today, reading and writing is required, and we are 2, 3, 4 grade levels below reading and writing in inner city schools. That's an amazing statistic in light of the history of how we were treated for generations in this country. And it occurs to me that looking at that statistic and many other statistics of the unemployment of our people, the underemployment of our people, the number of our people incarcerated, the number of our people in poverty, the number of our people in some sort of addiction, addiction to drugs, addiction to alcohol, addiction to television, addiction to every other thing except learning and achieving. That we have come to the crossroads in our history. And it is my opinion, and I want to share this with you this evening, there's going to be some tough analysis here. Right? See, I didn't come for a feel better meeting. I came to get us to understand where we are so we can get to where we're going quick, fast, and in a hurry, because we don't have much time, y'all. Because the sands of time are moving out of the hourglass. And you know you can't flip the hourglass. When it's gone, it's gone. And so it is my opinion that we need a massive and sustained therapy to recover from the effects of enslavement and post-enslavement. We are truly damaged people. And this is not an indictment, but an observation. Because we see and treat ourselves as inferior, while we see whites and their culture as being superior but unattainable. That's a heck of a condition to be in, where you see yourself as inferior, where you see others as superior, but you can't get there where they are because they don't want you to be there. So where does that leave us? We need to go on a therapy couch. That don't mean that we should be going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, because they don't have enough of them and enough couches to accommodate us. So we have to be in the process, and you know, God has given us all we need to heal ourselves. All we need to heal ourselves, except that we have to have the will, the discipline, the commitment, and the optimism that this we can do. What we have failed to admit and concede is that there's an inner voice in us, all of us, that controls our thoughts and our feelings and our fundamental relations with ourselves and each other. It's the inner voice that's called the Willie Lynch syndrome. Now, y'all have heard about Willie Lynch, but you really haven't heard about Willie Lynch. Because Willie Lynch is alive and well in each of us. And it's that voice, that Willie Lynch voice, that controls our every thought, controls our every concept of ourselves and white folks, and works to keep us enslaved. Now, you say, what do you mean, El-Amin, enslaved? Just what I mean, enslaved. Perhaps not by chains around our arms and necks, but certainly chains around our brains and our thought. And we're caught in the syndrome of Willie Lynch. Now, in 1902, the famous theoretician and mathematician and intellectual Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote a book called The Souls of Black Folk. Besides your personal Bible, this should be the book that you carry with you every day of your life. Because in that book, he talked about the very problem of African Americans. He talked about the problem of double consciousness. He said that being black means being deprived of a true self-consciousness. Because blacks often perceive ourselves through the contempt that white America sees and feels about us. We see and judge ourselves through the eyes of white people. Oh. We see and judge ourselves through the eyes of white people. No wonder we can't get up and move on. No wonder we can't be in business together. No wonder we can't build a viable community. He said that this harms our psyche and does irreparable damage to our sense of competency, appearance, and our sense of well-being. At the root of each of us, we harbor an antagonism and hatred, barely disguised disgust of each other, which is no more or no less than the full manifestation of Willie Lynch. Who is Willie Lynch? Well, 300 years ago, this year, 1712, he was invited to come from the Caribbean, where he had successfully destroyed the mentality of African people who were brought on slave ships but got off in Haiti and in Jamaica and in Barbados. You know, the Middle Passage had several stops. Those stops were in Central America, South America, the Caribbean, and then finally to the United States of America. And so that's what we call African Americans in the diaspora. The diaspora is the places where we were captured and brought to work for nothing and to serve as enslaved people for life.
Yeah.
Okay?
Say it, sir.
And so Willie Lynch was successful in domesticating and quieting the enslaved populations in the Caribbean, and had done it so well that the planters asked him to come and say, tell us how you did it. Because we got a problem here. See, we control these African people by force and intimidation. You see, we have to teach them through example. So what we do is we get the strongest of them and we beat them and we hang them so that others will feel what would happen to them if they got out of step. But there was a problem, because each one of those individuals that they beat and killed were worth big money. You know what the value of a prime field hand was in 1800? $1,800 of today's money. So that would be equal today to about $12,000 for one individual. So right down there in Shockoe Bottom, in one of the 57 auction houses that lined the streets in Shockoe Bottom in the 1800s.
Say it. Speak it.
And so they recognized that this way of dealing with their enslaved population was contrary to good economics. Because when you maimed or killed a prime field hand, and the prime field hand was the one that would be most likely to buck, most likely to jump up in his face. And he had to knock him down, because if he didn't, then others would get the idea that it's all right to do this. You know, you all do this to your children today. Quiet as is kept. Is that true? Praise the Lord. Let freedom reign. Now, you know, every now and then I'm going to look up at y'all, because you know when you throw a stick in a pack and somebody yells, you know you done hit something.
Go ahead.
So if y'all will just let me, I'm just going to try to get this to you. So here's what he said. He said, I greet you here on the banks of the James River in the year 1712. These are quotes. First, I thank you, gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. I'm here to introduce you to a foolproof method of controlling your black slaves. Listen well. Listen well. Because this is what he did and what is being done. My method is simple. I use fear, distrust, and envy for controlling purposes. I then use differences among the slaves, including skin color or shade, their jobs or duties on the plantation, the texture of their hair, be it nappy, curly, or straight. Oh my goodness. I assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than worship, respect, or admiration. If you use my formula, your black slaves will carry this on. It will become self-generating for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. And so when you look in our eyes, you're looking at the 1,000-year stare. The 1,000-year stare. Because he predicted it. And so far, it's come true. He said, gentlemen, these are your keys to control them. Don't forget, you must pit the old against the young, dark skin against light skin, female against male. Your slaves must be trained to trust, depend, love, and respect only white people. Gentlemen, these are the keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity to control them. If used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful of each other. Whoa. Now, what is important is that we are pitted against each other today based on skin color, texture of our hair, title, and position in the white folks' workplace. Well, yes?
True.
Is that right?
Yeah.
We worship white people. We really do, y'all. We worship them. And we are under their absolute control. So if we can agree that the problem is that we are being Willie Lynched, The simple antidote to the problem is to murder all aspects of Willie Lynch that constitute or continue to reside in our minds, bodies, and souls, and excrete him as we would some deadly virus that invaded our bodies. Oh yeah, that's all you got to do. But the devil is in the detail. The devil is in change. The devil is in habit. Because this will turn out to be the most arduous, difficult, and painful experience we will ever have in our lifetimes. Because Willie Lynch has resided deep within us for so long that it is our first and second nature. Willie Lynch is virtually hardwired in our social fabric. Do you know who ain't Willie Lynch? I'm going to go off topic for a minute. Who is an African American that you know and see who's not Willie Lynch? Come on. Okay, but one who, President Barack Obama. Why isn't he Willie Lynched? No, because he was raised by a white mama. Oh yes. She was never enslaved. Her people were never enslaved, so she didn't communicate to him the enslavement mentality. His father was an African who was a simple sperm donor. He didn't raise him. He was not in his life. He was raised by his white mother and his grandmother. Now that is a dangerous thing to think about. Because if in fact we are enslaved by our parents communicating to us the enslaved message that they received, then how can we ever escape unless we have a white mama? Ooh, that's some deep stuff, y'all. See, think about this. You can't teach what you don't know. Is that right? So if you don't know liberation, you can't teach it. African people don't know liberation, so they can't teach themselves, nor can they teach their children. And they teach them and give them all of the signs of enslavement. Mamas do it more to their sons than they do to their daughters. Why? Why is that? Because mamas know that this black male child, if he jumps up in a white folk's face, they're going to cut him down. So in her love for him, she tries to keep him from his manhood because she knows his manhood is a recipe for death in this society. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Think about it. So in her love for him, she emasculates him. And in emasculating him, he despises women. And so when you hear all this rap music, where they call women all these kinds of names, it's about that emasculation. Because they knew what happened. They saw what happened. They saw in the family the mama putting all the mama and daddy putting all the resources in the daughter. Why? So she could stay out of Mr. Charlie's house and be a servant to him, because she know what he gonna do when he come home for lunch. That's why we look like we do, all different colors. Because he came home for lunch, but he didn't come home to eat no lunch. So they knew what's going to happen to the daughter if she became a maid or a servant.
True.
So what they did was they took whatever small resources they had to give to the daughter so she could go to college or to business school so she could become a secretary, so she could probably escape the life. And guess what they gave the Academy Award to the Best Supporting Actor for? What? What?
Amazing.
Yes, Yes. So, and that's Hollywood's.
Perception.
That's Hollywood's strategy to keep in your mind that no matter how high you go, black man, black woman, you still, in this country, a maid or chauffeur. You may have doctor against your name. All right? Now, to show you how insidious Willie Lynch is, he's got us calling us by the name that he called us, the N-word. Now, that's his word. And there's nothing positive about the word, is it? No. And he used it with lethal, venomous. You know, when he used that word, he meant that we were nothing. You know, less than nothing.
Yeah.
So I know I got you when I got you calling yourself the name I gave you. Whoa! And you know, we can say it more venomous than he can. We can say it more angry than he can.
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting that those of us who went through this, see, the young people, they didn't go through Jim Crow. See, they didn't get called regularly this name. All right? On a regular basis. They get called on occasion. But we got called on the regular. So we should be the ones that would be the least to use the word. But we're the ones that most use it.
True.
We lost and turned out, y'all. We doing his job. Now, let me tell you something that's interesting. Now, you take a small child, or you, and ask you, what was Dr. King's most famous speech? And you always say, you know, what's that? I've been to the mountain.
I have a dream.
Yeah, I have a dream. He gave that in 1963, but let me give you, have you heard his speech that he made in August of 1967 at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in Atlanta called Where Do We Go From Here? You know, that's strange, because I'm going to read part of it to you, and you will see why this speech is more relevant and much more applicable to our situation than I have a dream. He said, where do we go from here? First, we must massively assert our dignity and worth. We must stand up against the system that still oppresses us and develop an unassailable and majestic sense of values. We must no longer be ashamed of being black. The job of arousing manhood within a people that have been taught for so many centuries that they are nobody is not easy. Even semantics have conspired to make that which is black ugly and degrading. In Roget's thesaurus, there are 120 synonyms for blackness, and at least 60 of them are offensive, as for example, block, soot, grim, devil, and foul. There are 134 synonyms for whiteness, and all are favorable, not one being negative. So just in the language, we jacked up. Just in the language. It says, a white lie is better than a black lie. But what the folks told me, lie is a lie. How can there be a white lie and a black lie? Both are untrue. But they say a white lie is better than a black lie. Woo! We can't escape. The most degenerate member of the family is called the black sheep. R.C. Davis has suggested that maybe the English language should be reconstructed so that teachers will not be forced to teach the Negro child 60 ways to despise himself and thereby perpetuate his false sense of inferiority, and the white child 134 ways to adore himself and thereby perpetuate his false sense of superiority. This is R.C. Davis. This is King speaking. The tendency to ignore the Negro's contribution to American life and to strip him of his personhood is as old as the earliest history books and as contemporary as the morning newspaper. To upset this cultural homicide, the Negro must rise up with an affirmation of his own Olympian manhood. Woo! Any movement for the Negro's freedom that overlooks this necessity is only waiting to be buried. As long as the mind is enslaved, the body can never be free. Psychological freedom, a firm sense of self-esteem, is the most powerful weapon against the long night of physical slavery. No Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation or Johnsonian Civil Rights Bill can totally bring this kind of freedom. The Negro will only be free when he reaches down to the inner depths of his own being and signs with the pen and ink of assertive manhood his own Emancipation Proclamation. And with a spirit straining toward truer self-esteem, the Negro must boldly throw off the manacles of self-abnegation and say to himself and to the world, I am somebody, I am a person, I am a man with dignity and honor, I have a rich and noble history. How painful and exploited that history has been. Yes, I was a slave to my foreparents, but I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not ashamed of the people who were so sinful to make me a slave. Yes, we stand up and say, I'm black and I'm beautiful. And this self-affirmation is the black man's need made compelling by the white man's crime against him. These are deep. And you had never heard it. You never heard it. But yet you can quote, I have a dream where my 4 little black children will one day sit with 4 white children. Come on. They ain't going to happen, not in this time, not in the time forever. So why is I have a dream more important to African people than where do we go from here? Because where we go from here is a recipe for liberation. I have a dream is a recipe for Uncle Tomism and staying in your place. Go back and read I Have a Dream. First he's dreaming. First he's dreaming.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to try to end it here because I'm trying to make a point to you. You know, we got to kill Willie Lynch because Willie Lynch is killing us.
Yeah, too.
We succumb to the belief that white folks' ice is colder than ours. Now that's crazy because ice is ice, same temperature, but we think his ice is colder than ours.
True.
Or we're going to get a better deal or a more competent job from a white contractor or a white business entity over and above black businesses.
Yeah, we do that.
When you say that, you feeding Willie Lynch. First you got to starve him. You can't give him the nourishment. And when you use the N-word, you're giving him nourishment. When you treat your brother and persons that look like you in contempt, you're feeding Willie Lynch. You're buying into his program. And we're going for the 1,000 years and then beyond. All right? Now, let me say something to you all, because this has got to be okay. Now, Genesis 1, verses 26 and 27 say to us, and God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female, created he them. Now, if you are created in the image of God, how could your blackness be ugly? How could your broad nose be ugly? How could your nappy hair be bad? How could it be? Unless you are serving some kind of freakish God. A God who sit back and say, look, I'm going to create some black folk. I'm going to make them real ugly. I'm going to make them to laugh and stop. You don't serve a God like that. But yet you don't even hold up to the fact that he created you in his image. And if he is perfect, how could you be imperfect? So there's something amiss here between the lip and the cup. Because you saying, I am in the image of God, but Lord, please, when that child is born, don't make his hair nappy. Your mama be with the little child, she be combing his hair, hoping that it don't turn to naps. You understand what I'm saying? Or the little girl out there that says, I'm going to go try to find me a Mexican so that my children could have straight hair. Oh, we are messed up. We are damaged.
True.
And we insane. To boot it. You know what the definition of insanity is? It's doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. And we continue to do the same thing and expect liberation. That's insanity. So not only are we damaged, we insane. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to you that we've got to do what is necessary, and the biggest problem with that, brothers and sisters, is change. Change is threatening to human beings. See, we don't want to change. We're too lazy to change. Go take a look in the mirror and say, you know, I got to lose 32 pounds. And then go right back to the dinner table.
Pick up where you left.
You see? And see, and we know we dig in our grave with our teeth. We know that. The foods we eat, we call it comfort food. The only comfort to that food is for the undertaker, because he's going to have you behind and put you right on in the ground. You see where I'm coming from? You see, so we got to examine. We got to put it on the table, take all the dressing off of it, you know, and look at it as it really is and say, you know, we have to change. And change is threatening. And yet, I find that it is exhilarating. I wake up every morning trying to figure out how to mess with white people. Every morning I wake up trying to figure out how to mess with white people. Why? Because it affirms my manhood. Because it's the very thing he don't want me to be. I can't wait to jump up in his face. But you see, I know two things about that. One, if you're going to jump up, you better be ready.
Yes, sir.
And you be ready to take the weapon. Because it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
But then, how does a world-class bodybuilder build his body? Through lifting weights. And lifting weights is using resistance to build strength. Okay? You can't become a world-class bodybuilder sitting up there watching TV.
That's right.
And so, my brothers and sisters, it is a glorious thing to finally decide I'm going to be free. I'm going to kill Willie Lynch. See, I don't use the word. And I'm not telling you that for any accolades, because I was the worst abuser of the N-word that you ever saw. I used to use it every other word. All right? I don't use profanity. And I used to be the most profane man on the face of the earth. But I recognized that both of them showed my ignorance.
Yes.
See, because I asked the brother be up there talking to me and cursing. I said, look, man, do you talk like that in front of your mama? No. Then why do you do it to me? Would you talk like that with the governor? No. Then so I'm black, so you figure you can do that to me, right? I want the same respect that you give somebody else. You see what I'm saying? And so what we have to do is we've got to stop doing what we do and figure out another way to get where we need to go. And we cannot get there from here. Because here is the position of our slavery. Here is the position of our suffering. And here is the position of our death. If we want liberation, then we have to live in a liberation mode. And we have to stop dissing ourselves. We have to stop putting ourselves down and raising up the people who enslaved us. There's not a black person on this earth that has done 1/10 of what white folks did to you, yet you love them and hate your brother. There's that. At the end of the day, none of it makes sense. And so, and I'm going to end on this point because this is important. The American emblem is "Don't tread on me." It's a snake, and he said, "Don't tread on me." What does that mean? It means don't disrespect me. Because people who are serious about themselves command that others be serious about them. Don't take me as a joke. Don't treat me as if I'm some kind of fool. All right? Because when you do that, you tell me everything I need to know. And so you got to be corrected. But I can't correct you unless I come correct. So you got to treat me like I treat myself. And the problem with African Americans is we treat ourselves so bad, we give license to other people to treat us worse than that. So all I'm saying, brothers and sisters, on this last day is that the change must come. And we are the agents of change. And all we need to do is to stand up and take out of our lives those things that weaken us. Because when you don't love yourself, you can't love someone that looks like you. And we don't love ourselves. We really don't. Because if we did, the sisters wouldn't be up in there with lie and heat and everything trying to kill their hair to make it straight. God wanted your hair to be straight, he would have given you straight hair. And did you know the strength of black? Do you know how strong black is? Take one drop of white and put it in a can of black paint. Ain't nothing happen. And it takes a kink to make a curl. I'm going to be on it. It takes a kink. You have the most advanced hair, or you had it before you did something to it. You have what God intended you to have, and if you made in his image, then it's perfect. So why are you trying to change perfect? Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Thank you all so much for your time tonight. This brother has really fired me up, and I hope that you have been invigorated as we seek to be liberated from some of the places that we may find ourselves yet still abiding. But I think it's conversation like this that raises awareness. We can't help from to be consciously challenged as well as to be morally challenged with some of the injustice that's going on in our community even today. So thank you, Mr. Saad El-Amin. We really appreciate your sharing from your heart. And I would like, if there are any particular questions about anything that he said that one may want some clarity or more enlightenment relative to some of the things that he said. Does anybody have a question they'd like to direct to Mr. Saad El-Amin tonight? Oh, we got a couple of them. All right. Let me do this. I'm gonna be like. We coming to you.
My question is, what was the year that Willie Lynch came to America to give this speech?
1712.
1712. I wrote that down. I could have answered that one for you. One over here.
Yeah, what was the title of the book that you said everyone should
The
have?
Souls of Black Folk.
Black Folks.
The Souls of Black Folk. Right. F-O-L-K.
And for those of you that may want that book, I do have that book in my possession, so I will be happy to share it with you. Amen. McCoy.
Yeah, this is directly about what you spoke about tonight, but I was impressed about the article in the Time Dispatch that they printed today on the Caesar Gaither.
Caesar Gators.
Right.
Yes.
Did he was called as black as coal,
Yes,
by Loretta Lynn during the concert.
at the Coliseum.
When she embraced and hugged him and apologized to him, did he give up the lawsuit at that particular time?
No.
Okay.
No, because his lawsuit was mainly, it was an interesting lawsuit in that he claimed that she caused him to be the butt of jokes by his own people. And as a result of that, he became an alcoholic and impotent. And so she put him on center stage. She had the spotlight focused on him. She didn't pay him anything, so he was not part of the act. And she called him out to ridicule. And so he was ridiculed twice. He was ridiculed by the white people who were laughing at him in the audience, but his brothers and sisters who worked with him, they were unrelenting, called him coal miner's daughter. And you know, and as the article said, he is the darkest complexion man I have ever seen. He was so dark that he had a shade of gray. Okay? And that's not funny, that's just the way he was. And his skin was flawless. And he had been ridiculed all of his life. Because you know, in our time, you call somebody black, that was an insult. You remember? Called me black. That was like bad stuff. So all his life he had been dark. The girls called him ugly. He couldn't get no girls because he was too dark. And in that article, you all need to rent the film School Days by Spike Lee. Because that film shows the color barrier between African Americans today.
Yes.
And the real dark people in there were called jigaboos. And the light people were called wannabes. And you know, I found it amazing when I did some research on that. And it's in the article too. But those who haven't read it, Spike is he's a genius in terms of a filmmaker. So he knew the existence, and this is what I'll tell you, he knew the animosity between light-skinned and dark-skinned people. So he had the wannabes hoteled in a upscale hotel, and the jigaboos hoteled in a downscale hotel. And that created enormous animosity, so much so that in an unscripted part of the movie, right after the step show, them Negroes started fighting. Okay? And he kept the carriage rolling. So you will see the fight in the film. And that is exhibit A of the dichotomy between light-skinned and dark-skinned black people. And it is so corrosive that it is even as we speak today. You go to Washington or other places where, you know, the Negroes are really on the plantation. And child, it's a shame. You know?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank
I
you.
have one other question over here, and we're going to try to let you all go. Thank you so much for your patience.
I have a question, not what you spoke on tonight, but it's an incident that's going on in the state of Virginia. I noticed that in the state of Virginia, we got more publicity on contraceptive
Yes.
than we got on voters' rights. And I noticed that Virginia passed a law stating that if you don't come to the voters, if you come to the voters' right to vote and you don't have a driver license or a picture ID, they can turn you away. What happened to that? How did that get past us where it wasn't outspoken like the contraceptive?
Because the people who were most affected didn't turn out. You see, the pro-abortion people came out in the thousands and demonstrated. And they created that Virginia was a national spectacle with regard to that. So those legislators who are very much sensitive to public opinion withdrew it.
Yeah.
And but when it came to the voting thing, nobody showed up. So they say, well, if there ain't no opposition, then we'll pass it. And that's been our problem. Because when there was another a bill to deal with better spending of state money for minority contractors, which was a bill that Senator McGeach had put in, 631. 651. It was tabled. It's not going anywhere simply because there was no heat to keep it moving. And and I'm going to say this in a way, and this is important. You see, we killed Dr. King and all these other people because we sat back and waited for them to free us. And we getting ready to do that to President Obama. Okay? Because them people showed that they don't have no respect for it. It's been unprecedented. That woman putting her finger in the brother's face. All right? Or that legislature calling him a liar in the thing. That has never happened. Okay? And in the State of the Union is what you see. If we don't say something, nothing gets said, and if nothing gets said, nothing gets done. So, thank you.
Dr. El-Amin, thank you so much. Let's give him another hand clap. We really appreciate you taking the time out to be with us tonight. And I hope for the members of Second Baptist Church that we can continue to have conversations like this.